Hey, and welcome to Matt and Jess TV. I am Matt Rose.
And I'm Jessica Bun Bun.
Welcome to our reaction and review for Nine Bodies in a Mexican Morgue, episode 2. I'm just going to say it now. This episode is lit. It is so good. It is so entertaining. If you don't have MGM Plus, and I know not everybody out there does, what are you doing with your life? Like, you need to get it to watch this show. I thought the first episode was really good, but I think this episode just takes it up another notch. Like, this was so good.
Yeah, if you're looking for a really solid whodunit where it really feels like everybody is a suspect and you really can't figure it out, this is a show for you. We love murder mystery type shows here at the channel. We cover them all the time. And we love this type of a format where it feels like there are lots of suspects, there's lots of motives, and it's not clear who the killer is for sure. Of course, we have our ideas of who it is, and we think that it's Amy, but that doesn't mean that it is. There is definitely motives for a lot of people there.
I will say this from the start. It's like, if you guys watch a lot of our murder mystery discussion, you probably know it's pretty rare for Jess and I to have the same exact opinion
I
as to
know.
who the person is. And the funniest thing is, before we both said this in the premiere, we hadn't discussed that in advance or anything. We both just magically had the same thought coming out of it, but we both could be very, very wrong, because I think one of the elements of episode 2, and hopefully now the whole show, that I think is really, really strong is we have all of these passengers aboard this plane that is crashed. And I think one of the kind of common murder mystery whodunit tropes is, oh, it can't be this person. It's too obvious. They have put something in episode 2 that almost makes it feel like any of them is too obvious. We mentioned this previously. This creative team has done this sort of show before.
Yeah.
It shows like there's a real competency behind the scenes here.
Okay, I am going to give a warning for anybody who has forgotten the names of the characters on the show. Do not go to IMDb like I did. So I had forgotten the name of Travis. And I was like, oh man, I can't remember his name. I can't remember his name. IMDb, and we'll just check out this show. Oh, he's only in 2 episodes. I'm like, oh, cool. Okay, so now I've been told that he's dying in this episode. So I didn't look at anybody else's name because I had remembered everybody else's name, thank goodness. But just to give a warning, do not go to IMDb because it's at least got Travis there for 2 episodes and he is gone.
Yeah, he is. And now with that in mind, I'm going to send out a proposition to any agents, managers who are watching this video. Just intentionally put up wrong information about the rest of the characters. Say they're in 8 episodes, even though it's a 6-episode show. Just like do something. Throw us off the scent a little bit.
Yeah, it feels like IMDb is getting too spoilery here, where it used to just kind of give information, but now like about this is the actor, this is who they're playing, and now it's like, oh, also only 2 episodes about a show about people getting murdered, so do the math.
Okay, we have so much more to talk about here, a lot of theories, a lot of evidence. Before we go forward here, though, be sure to hit that subscribe button. It is a great way to make sure you do not miss the rest of our coverage of Nine Bodies in a Mexican Morgue. Tell your friends about this show. Get more people watching it. Help us get to 70,000 subscribers as well. We really appreciate your support.
Also, if you want to support us further, you can join our Patreon. Over there, we are covering The Pit, which is airing on Max, and Prime Target, which is airing on Apple TV, that just ended, but it is so good. And if you've been watching it, you can check out our finale review over there. And thank you so much to everyone who has joined our Patreon.
Thank you, guys. We really appreciate that.
Let's get into the Amy of it all. Okay, so we've learned a bit more about her. We learned that her parents had put her in like a clinic to sort of have like, she wasn't well, and her dad sent her there to get some rest. And we've seen her have like breaks in her memory while she's been here, where it's like, oh, you told me this. Oh, I did, which I completely relate to because just in general, my memory is for crap. So watching this, I'm like, yeah, the girl, same. But she's got breaks in her memory, so she doesn't remember exactly what she has told people or exactly what has happened. She thinks she's seeing somebody there, and it is possible that the person who is killing everybody off is not on the plane. However, tinfoil hat theory, it is somebody on this plane. After seeing Octavio's message, to his woman being like, listen, like the GPS all of a sudden just mysteriously stopped working. And,
Yeah.
I feel like I'm in danger, which means that you're in danger. They're going to be coming for you probably. They're coming for me. It's like, it feels very purposeful that this plane was taken down, that each person on this plane is connected to whoever is killing everybody off and needs them all to go.
Yeah, I'm gonna be a little bit disappointed if the person who is responsible for all of this was not on the plane. I mean, maybe they'll pull something where it's like, oh, it's their secret lover who was on the ground the whole
Could
time,
be.
or, all of that is possible. It's
There is
just
that walkie-talkie that somebody's talking to for that woman that we saw at the beginning that was like scoping out the morgue.
what I am hoping has gone on here, because what we saw in the sky with Octavio, I
Yeah,
kind of feel like it was always planned for the plane to go down
right.
around this spot. I mean, the GPS coordinates, there's something's going haywire, but I think it had to have been purposeful that they knew what the flight plan was going to be, that there was a specific GPS point in the air that they were going to have some of this happen. And yeah, human error, things can go wrong. There's a chance that maybe the plane doesn't go down in that exact spot. Like there's a little bit of a risk in trying to make all of this happen. But I want to believe that whoever is responsible for all of this knew that this walkie-talkie was going to be out there and that they were able to use that to relay back and forth with this mystery woman from the first episode.
100%. That walkie-talkie's not there by, just happenstance. It's there on purpose.
Yeah.
Somebody on this plane is communicating back to this woman who is watching the morgue. There is something planned with this plane going down in this exact spot where they
Yeah.
have planted a way for somebody on this plane to be able to communicate. Somebody there knows how to get out of this situation.
And I think what makes this so interesting to me is you could easily argue, okay, well, if somebody out there really wanted everybody on this plane gone, why don't you just have something happen to the plane that will lead to everyone being gone? I mean, clearly they do not want the killer to be gone. So this is a situation where the plane had to crash in this very specific way so that then the killer could then take out every single person individually. And yeah, all of that is really, really tricky. But let's get back to Amy here for a second.
Yeah.
My fear, and once again, I'm going to send another message to the Nine Bodies team. Please don't have this be the case where we're having some sort of, you have Amy and then you have Dark Amy, where you have Dark Amy taking over and taking people out, and then real Amy doesn't remember. I've seen that story too many times.
Yeah, I feel that it's purposeful. I think that maybe what she's telling people,
Hmm.
oh, I was, sent to this clinic to get well.
Yeah.
Maybe that's not exactly what the clinic is, just because she says that's what it is,
Yeah.
or that's what her dad does for a living. And, maybe her family has money because of nefarious reasons, and she's been brought out here on a task,
Yeah.
and she's not feeling that great about it. Maybe she's being brought into the family business and she's like, man, I really don't want to do this, but I kind of have to because my dad, and now I'm doing it. And maybe she is having some breaks in her mental health where she's really struggling with, okay, I have to do this for the
Yeah.
family, but at the same time I'm not feeling that great about it, because my tinfoil hat theory
Yeah.
is not that Amy was the target with those mushrooms. Like, I've
Yeah.
rewatched that scene with the mushrooms. I'm like, okay, who knew about it? Sonia, Kevin, Dan, Zach, Amy. They were all there. They all knew about it.
Mhm.
Pretty much everybody knew about it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I was just like, I don't think that Amy is the target. I think that Amy put it in her own food and was just like, I just don't want to eat this monkey. Who's interested? That kind of thing. And of course, there was going to be some kind of takers out there because
Yeah.
everybody is really hungry.
Yeah, they are. And she might have been able to assume that, okay, Travis is probably going to be the one to do it because he's a big dude. He's a dude who clearly didn't have any problem with having the monkey as food
Right.
in the first place. And if we are to think about the idea that maybe Amy is some sort of like diabolical genius here for a moment, are we willing to, let's just add another bit of tinfoil up here.
Mhm.
Are we willing to say that, okay, she planted herself in this recovery center on purpose? She purposely seduces Dan, who is a limousine driver, on
Yep.
some level, so that she is able to build this construct so that she's able to ultimately be in this place at this time. I mean, yes, Amy would have to be a pretty good actress to pull all of this off, but I kind of feel like whoever is pulling all of this off at this point is a pretty good actor.
Yeah, I mean, I really think that she is the person that is behind this. The person that I really feel confident that is not behind
Mhm.
this is Dan. And the reason why is because it feels like it's very obvious. I think that Dan is a bad guy doing bad things.
Mhm.
Like, I do think he probably married Amy for her money, and we watched him cut off this finger for no reason. Like, he could have just used the finger on the phone there. He didn't need to cut it off. He just
No.
threw it away after. He's being really careless about it.
Yep.
And the fact that he just threw it the way that he did, and him being that careless, made me feel like it's not him. He's not going to be able to pull this off because he's being so careless about stuff.
Yeah, like there was definitely quote unquote evidence around Dan, but it is that overabundance of evidence, that recklessness, that if it turns out to be Dan, then Dan is really just operating with like this crazy death wish where he's just like, maybe I'll get caught at some point. I don't really care. I don't want to be doing this anyway.
Yeah, and if it's Dan and he's breaking into the phone and he's
Yeah.
getting this information, I understand him at first being like, okay, I'm not going to share it with anybody. Then
Yeah.
he's just sharing it with his woman. Okay, well,
Yeah.
that makes sense. But now he's sharing it with everybody. And the fact that he's sharing it with everybody kind of makes me feel like, why did he go through all of this to be this sneaky about
Yeah.
it? To then be like, you know what, I'm just going to share it with everyone. And my only feeling is that he went into the phone. He thought he could maybe get into the banking information because he seemingly married for money, is trying to get to
Mhm.
money. Oh, here's this phone that's got banking information on it. Can I get a signal? Of course not, or they'd all be saved. And then he's like, you know what? I'm just going to share the rest of this information so maybe we can get out alive.
Yeah, the only tiny shred of like with Dan at the moment. I've got moments with everybody on the show at this point. Is it's like maybe I'll earn everybody's trust by sharing this, and then they won't suspect that it's really me. This is the same argument I make, by the way, though, with Kevin, where it's like, okay, Kevin is trying to save all these lives or save all these lives. Maybe he's doing this to throw people off the scent.
I don't know. The minute that Dan was like, oh, there's water, let me just jump in, I was like, oh, this guy does not understand this area at all. So if that's the case, then is he really gonna have this walkie-talkie hidden in a bush? He's gonna be, it feels like somebody who would know the area a little bit better than this. And that could be Amy if her father maybe set this up for her. Could be Sonia. Sonia's like, yeah, this is what these mushrooms are. We also love mushrooms here at the channel. Poisonous mushrooms. But it's, she knows the landscape really
Yeah.
well too. There's a few people there that know the landscape well enough that they would not just jump into this underwater cavern filled with barracuda.
Dan is probably just an idiot. I think we can say that with a
Yes.
certain measure of confidence. Wait, but you're telling me you would not jump into that water? No.
No, I would not jump into that water.
Nobody with half a brain is jumping into that water.
No, if you don't know where you are, it just
Yeah.
feels like good common sense to not be drinking the water, jumping in the water, eating the mushrooms. You don't know what's going on, so just don't put it in your mouth. Don't put it in.
Are we doing nursery rhymes with Matt and Jess now?
Right.
Or the "Don't Put It in Your Mouth" song? That also feels like a very disturbing subreddit. But okay, let's keep our detective hats on here because
Okay.
we may have a number one suspect, but we got to do our due diligence here.
Right.
Okay, so Sonia, she is able to
Yes.
identify this dangerous mushroom out there, but
Right.
she claims that she is a photographer and she shows all the evidence to Zach of these photographs that she has done. Like, do we believe that she is really a photographer, or is she just showing her friends photographs?
I think she's a photographer, but I think that there's something more going on with that. With the particular types of photographs she's taking,
Yeah.
it feels like she's probably deeper into that whole situation than she's making it out to be. I don't think she's just taking photos and that's all it is. She just knows the area a little too well. She's
Yeah.
very familiar with what's going on. I feel like she might be somebody who's very pro helping these people out, and that it's less about the photos and more about, oh, I'll just be the photographer, but really I'm going to start helping some people out.
It's just To me, I'm having a little bit of a disconnect with the idea of, okay, you're a photographer and you know this one very specific mushroom. I mean, I guess if
Yeah.
you're there enough, you would, but this
Yep.
feels like some like hardcore, you're a contestant on one of those like survivalist shows that you watch that I can never remember the name of, where you're just out in the wilderness forever.
Alone is one of
Yes.
my favorites. I love that. It was good to actually see them filtering the water and not just like, let's try our luck. I was like, oh no.
Yeah, it just feels like she knows an awful lot for somebody who just takes photographs. So, I mean,
Right.
I guess if you're taking photographs of this specific region, you're probably going to try to identify everything that is out there. I get it. It is just very coincidental to me, anyway.
It is. Okay, let's talk about Carlos, who,
Yeah,
for some reason, he's like the lowest on my list, even though he's going into the jungle all
yeah,
the time by
I
himself.
know.
He finally opens up this case and he's like, yeah, here's my mask. This is my identity. This is who I am.
Yeah,
In 2 days, I'm going to be meeting, my enemy in Houston for this fight where
yeah,
we had another fight and he cheated. And now I'm going to be able to sort of like get that win back. And, that's what I'm doing. And we have seen him out in the jungle continuing to work out, thinking that he's going to be there in time.
yeah.
But he is out alone in the jungle a lot. And unless you're on Survivor looking for an immunity idol, you're probably up to no good.
Maybe he thinks if he plays the immunity idol, he can't be killed off at the next whatever ceremony is
Right.
happening here.
Right.
The biggest case that Carlos is the one responsible for this is that by far he's the most athletic person there.
Yes.
He's able to move around all the times he's going into the woods, but it is weird. This once again, very odd. It's just that I find myself in full agreement with you again, just because there's a purity, I think, to what he is saying about wrestling. And I don't know,
Yeah.
it's because I really liked wrestling when I was 12 years old or something like that.
Same.
It's just there's something about him where he takes it so seriously, and I think
Mhm.
he's a craftsman trying to just perfect
Yes.
his craft, and that's something that's really really meaningful to him. So I think he is just of this mindset of, okay, I know we're out here. I'm hoping we're not going to be out here forever. So I'm just going to be really laser focused on making sure that I'm good to go for whenever we get rescued, that I can go back and be my awesome luchador self. I feel pretty hopeful that he's okay.
This show is going to break my heart. I know it's going
Yeah,
to turn into Carlos. You guys are going to kick me in my teeth,
I
and,
know.
I'm going to be surprised, which is fine.
Yeah,
I'm here for a surprise. As much as we think that it's Amy,
yeah.
I'm hopeful that it's not, and that it's going to be like a really nice big surprise. That's one of the things that we really enjoy
Mm.
about covering murder mysteries, is where we're like, oh man, we are so sure. And then it's like, no, L.
Okay, speaking of L, L is for Lisa in this
Yes.
position because there's some stuff in here that I found very curious about
Mhm.
her.
Mhm.
Starting with, she seems to just be pretty well versed in a lot of various medical related things, and some of that maybe because of her purported history, the
Yep.
things that she has said,
Yep.
taking care of Travis, like all of this.
And also working at the hospice.
Yeah, all of this may line up with that, but it's also, I don't know. They had a little bit of her wailing at the very end, but she did not seem to be, to me, as devastated about losing Travis as I would have thought.
I agree. When she was just like, oh, we've been together like 30 years or
Yeah,
whatever, I thought she was just going to be like straight up wailing all over his
yes.
body. Like it was pulled back. And I was just kind of like, okay, is it pulled back because she's in front of strangers
Mhm.
and maybe she feels weird grieving as hard as she's going to grieve in front of
Yeah.
people she doesn't know? It can be really awkward. I'm a former funeral director, so I've seen it all. I've
Mhm.
seen people who are wailing at the
Yeah.
visitation and seeing their loved ones and they can't control themselves. And then I've seen other people sort of really be able to hold it in and have their grieving process more in private later.
Mhm.
So I'm kind of on the fence about it. At first, I was just like, I feel like this is a smaller reaction for being with somebody for so many
Yeah.
decades. But at the same time, it is possible that she's just holding it for a private moment, that she's like, I don't know you people. And, yeah, I'm hurting, but you don't get to be in my grief.
What if? This is a big what if. What if this whole hotel chain operation they've got going on here is a front for some other sort of activity,
Could
and
be.
because of that activity, somebody finds out, is holding it over her head, and is basically like, you're going to do all this if you want to keep this operation, your future. Maybe she
Right.
wasn't told that Travis was going to go, or that she would have to take out Travis until late in the game, and then she's just like, you telling me I have to do this to my own husband, and if it's
Hmm.
the only way she stays alive. It's just, listen, the hospitality business is very difficult these days. We are watching The White Lotus. I know she's not running The White Lotus here, but I'm just saying, crazier things have happened than somebody being put in that kind of desperate a situation.
It's also interesting that Lisa is the one person since the beginning that has felt like somebody is doing this, that she
Yeah,
has had experience in this situation at the hospice where somebody had ended someone else's life, and
yeah,
then the staff there was like, okay, these are the signs to look for, bruising around the
yeah,
eyes and this and all these different other signs, that if you see this, this is what this actually means. It's not just they've passed in their sleep, something has happened,
yeah.
that she's able to pick up on that stuff. But she is so vocal about the idea that somebody is doing this, and that it makes me feel like she is doing this. Usually it's the person who's
Yeah,
like inserted themselves into the investigation, or
yeah.
the person who's talking a lot, that it's like, oh, well, maybe it's because they're covering up that they did it.
She's maybe the woman who cried wolf, who is also actually the wolf. And that's
Right.
something that is really interesting. And I mean,
Yeah,
if
it's
we're
exciting.
jumping over to Kevin, it's sort of similar. He
Yep.
is sort of forced to insert himself into all of this
Hmm.
because of his job. We
Yep.
know that he's capable of holding on to information because he doesn't explain a lot about his past as a doctor until this episode. He
Hmm.
may be holding on to a lot more. I mean, the other obvious, and this is not a checking out IMDb thing. I know nothing about his episode count. It's just that Eric McCormack is the biggest star of this show. I would presume you want to keep him around a while.
Yeah, I mean, do I think that they're going to keep him until the very end? I
Mhm.
mean, it seems probable because he is the biggest star, but at the same time,
Yeah,
the show has already surprised me, and they have brought in other people like Zachary, who feels like the actual leader of this group,
yeah,
and they are building characters in a such a solid way that if they decided that they were, this is a short limited series,
yeah.
right? Like if they decided that they're going to kill him off in episode 4 and there's still a couple more episodes left, I'm not going to be mad about it, where it's like, oh, you had this huge star, but you Drew Barrymore the situation from Scream, where, she was in it for 10 minutes, but she's on the poster.
I just sorry, I'm lost in how much fun this is. Like, I'm having just so much fun talking about just the people and what they
I
made me.
love this show. Like, what a
Yeah,
surprise.
it's really fun. It's intense at times, but there's just clues everywhere. Like, even if we want to talk
Hmm.
about Zachary here for a moment, you said
Yep.
he's the leader of the group,
Yep.
but he's also clearly holding back about, is he really working in insurance? What's going on with him? And
Yeah.
he's so obvious of being capable of doing this stuff. But like I said at the start, everyone is obvious. You have Zachary's like getting Sonia to open up, and she's not opening up to anybody else. And there's a part of me that's just like, oh, good for you, Zachary. Look at you with your social skills. But another part of me is just like, oh no, you're getting information from her because maybe you either need to set her up or take her out later.
I think it's very interesting that all the characters, all the people who are on this plane, are all people who either travel for their jobs
Yeah,
or they're traveling in some sort of a way. Because what Octavio said very specifically on this video is, even if we land, we are dead. We
yeah,
all are. They won't allow us to live. So he knows that something is happening, that there is something about this plane already. Is he in on it? Was he in on it? He had some sort of information for sure. And it feels very not convenient
hmm,
that everybody that's on this plane is traveling. We have a luchador who's
yeah.
traveling around. Kevin is selling medical equipment. You got Zachary who's going around doing insurance claims, like the hotel business. They're traveling around. Everybody's traveling around.
Okay, there's one more moment in this episode that really cemented for me. Man, I'm really falling in love with this show, and I'm gonna be mad when it's over. And it was that scene, we're going to go, I guess, back to the present, the future. I don't know what we're calling the actual morgue
Mhm.
at this point,
Yeah.
where we sort of find out, okay, they're trying to identify all these people, and one of them just doesn't even have a face anymore.
Yeah, I was really excited about that, the way that they did this, because
Yeah.
we were talking about this in the premiere too. The idea where he's like, look, there's 10 passports, but there's only 9 bodies. I was like, if they don't go in this next
Yeah.
episode and go in there and identify people, I'm going to be feeling really raw about that because there's no reason for
Yeah.
them not to do that. But they explained it so well. As I said, I'm a former funeral
Yeah.
director. They were spot on about this. If you are in those conditions, you have a dead body that is in those conditions,
Yeah.
in the jungle, in the hot, hot heat for days, insects and decomposition, yeah, people, you're not going to be able to recognize them. Decomposition is going to happen so fast.
Yeah, it happened so fast, and it also, in between the no face person and the way in which Travis goes, this, it really kind of harkened back to 2 other things that I really love. One was the Fall of the House of Usher on Netflix, where every episode a member of that
Mhm.
family died, but they all died in these really different, crazy ways.
Yeah.
And then also Who Done It, the reality TV show that aired for 1 season on
Loved
ABC.
that.
I'm the only one who remembers it at this point.
It was
where
good.
It was really good, but it was the same thing. Every episode somebody went, but they all went in this crazy different way. So I'm hoping somebody gets their face ripped off and that this was all foreshadowing, and it's just, okay, these deaths are going to get crazier and crazier as
Mhm.
time goes on. And
Mhm.
I know it's macabre, but I just love that sort of creativity. And I
Yeah.
mean, this is a show titled 9 Bodies in a Mexican Morgue. They know what they're doing.
They absolutely do. So far, so good with this show. Has been a really pleasant surprise, which is weird to say because this is a show about murder, but
Yeah.
the cast is great, the story's great, the characters are
Yeah.
fun. Like it's a real who done it.
Yeah, I really hope you guys are enjoying this as much as we are. Give us your thoughts, your theories as to who did this in the comments, and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any more coverage. And you can support us further by joining our Patreon. That link is in the description below.
Mhm.
We're covering The Pit on Max, Prime Target just ended, and in the past we've done there The Penguin, Dune Prophecy, all sorts of good exclusive videos there. Thank you so much. We'll see you here next time.